Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show sponsored by Unibet. I'm your host, George Elek. I'm joined by oddschecker's very own Andy Holding, and we are looking forward to day one of the Grand National Festival at Aintree. Incredibly exciting stuff, Andy. Always this time of year. We're spoilt for choice with the start of the flat season, and then post-Cheltenham, of course, no shortage of high-quality racing as well. And it kicks off with a pretty good start on Thursday, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, couldn't agree more, George. I think because we've had an extra week to mull over and sit on our hands for a little bit, it just seems to have taken forever to get to this meeting. I suppose the racing has taken a little bit of a dip in quality in the interim. Notwithstanding, we saw a good opening day to the flat turf season. Of course, we had Bank Holiday Good Friday as well, which saw some quality flat racing. But we're very much back in business with the Aintree Festival. Appetites whetted by Fairy House of the Day. 3 great days of good sports over in Ireland. And a lot of the horses that we're going to be talking about here, by and large, took part at the Cheltenham Festival, certainly sort of half the field anyway. So that's always the classic conundrum, isn't it? Weighing up the horses that missed Cheltenham, have come fresh, especially for this meeting, against the ones that we know have got the best form and the best time figures. So always a difficult balancing act between the two.
I'm looking forward to you balancing it for all of us and letting us know where the value is ahead of day one. As I say, this show is sponsored by Unibet, and they are offering more extra places in races at Aintree this season than ever before, every single handicap race. And do check out the Unibet site for where they are paying those extra places. And they are also offering money back for second or third on at least one race every day. Visit unibet.co.uk to find out more details on those offers. And I'll be talking through Unibet's prices for all of these races, which we'll get into now. We're going to go through the card for Thursday. We'll be joining, Andy will be joining me again on Thursday as we look ahead to days 2 and 3. So, if you're watching this and Thursday, the event has already gone, then do check out the oddschecker YouTube channel where you can find days 2 and 3 out there, including, of course, the Grand National itself. But kicking off with the 145 here at Aintree, it is of course the Novice Chase here, where we've got joint favourites and Banbridge. We're recording this at about midday on Tuesday the 11th, so final decks just in. Banbridge opened around about the 2-1 mark, but early money means that Banbridge and Stage Star are now 13-8 favourites ahead of St. Roy at 11-4, Strawfound Jack 20-1. and Visionarian 22-1. So 3 at the top end of the market, 2 outsiders here, Andy. Where do you see the value?
Yeah, I think St. Roy's the value, St. Roy, without a shadow of a doubt, because he finished third in the second best race on the time figures, our time figures anyway, at the Cheltenham Festival. And that was that third in the Arco behind the mighty El Fabiolo. It was a real strong gallop that day. It always looked like being on paper, didn't it? With Dysart Dynamo setting them alight from the start. And he sorted the wheat from the chaff in the latter stages. El Fabiolo stayed on really well, beat John Bon, who in turn finished nicely ahead of St. Roy. But St. Roy went through the race like the good horse that he is. And going into this festival, I always thought as though St. Roy was probably going to end up being a Turner's horse and end up running against the likes of Mighty Potter and Stage Star in that 2.5 mile race. Given that John Bon was the main representative for JP McManus, that always seemed the logic. He wouldn't run the 2 Grade 1 horses against each other, but he did. And he certainly got justified in many respects with that horse running such a good race to finish third to El Fabiolo. The problem is obviously with Stage Star. Looking at him, he's obviously had a very hard race at the festival. Will he go the way of many horses as we saw at Fairy House, i.e. running hard all the way to the line and then dipping badly on their next run? That would be my doubt with him. And the ground, I think, is the issue with Banbridge. Now, I had him down as a very strong choice for the Turners, as many did, based on his run behind El Fabiolo in the Irish Arco when he stayed on and finished second. He looked as though that the 2.5 mile trip would definitely suit him all day. But they wanted good ground or good to soft ground. Obviously, the heavens opened in the lead up to the race, and they decided to pull the plug. I actually think they pulled the plug on the morning of the race because the rain came. They're obviously very concerned. Now, the forecast for today, as we're speaking, particularly towards the back end of the day into Wednesday and the early part of Thursday, is for a lot of rain more predominantly Tuesday into Wednesday, then it goes scattered showers. So connections of Banbridge are going to be doing a bit of a weather watch again. I don't think they're going to be wanting it soft or even softer than that in places. So even though he's logically the one to be with, having sidestepped Cheltenham and ties in with the very best 2 milers and looks as though 2.5 is his trip, he wouldn't really want to slog. So it's a real balancing act for me at the moment to look at this race and think, well, Banbridge would be the selection if it wasn't going to rain, but it is going to rain. In how much quantities will determine whether he's still a bet or not. I'd probably go against Stage Star, and Senor at time of recording is the only logical choice I could come up with, because he'll definitely get the trip, and his time figure suggests that he's right up there with the very best. So he would be the value at 3-1 as we speak.
11-4. Senor is with Unibet. The value play at this stage for Andy. On to the 2:20 now, the second race on the card, the Juvenile Hurdle, and Zenta is the 13-8 favourite ahead of Bo Zenith at 4-1. Nusret is 9-2, 8-1 Scriptwriter, 17-2 Perseus Way. Gravel is 9-1, 16-1 bar those. Andy.
I think the first thing we can say, George, unequivocally, is that the juvenile category has been pretty substandard this season. We haven't got a horse that's run a time figure that we'd normally expect a Grade 1 juvenile to be running. Not even Lossiemouth in the Triumph Hurdle itself ran the numbers that many top quality horses have done in that division in years gone by. So, like I say, I think we have been and we are still dealing with a pretty modest bunch of 4-year-olds. And that was kind of backed up with yesterday's run over in Fairyhouse, the Grade 2. The Triumph Hurdle 4th, Gust of Wind, was only 3rd. And the horse that I fancied strongly, the Triumph Hurdle, who was an odds-on shot yesterday, Blood Destiny, also got beat by a 25-1 shot. So it's just a really head-scratching division. Zenta looks the obvious one based on her run in the Triumph. I mean, she travelled really well. At least she came up the hill, and she kind of like hung on to the coattails of Lossiemouth and the second, in turn finishing well clear of the rest. So she definitely sets a very, very high standard, or a standard certainly higher than the rest anyway. We don't get carried away, because with the juveniles. The one I'd be most keen on, and I see as the biggest danger, having missed Cheltenham deliberately to be safe to this, in the hope that they get good ground or good to soft ground at the very worst, is Nusret. Now, he's also very ground dependent, similarly to stable companion Banbridge, who missed the Cheltenham Festival. They also swerved the festival because they thought they might get soft ground. He proved himself on good ground on a flat track when he won the Dovecot. When he won the Adonis, I beg your pardon, at Kempton, lowering the colours of Perseus Way. And I think the ground is very, very crucial to Nusret, because he didn't handle it when he ran at Leopardstown beyond Lossiemouth. He hated it when he ran at Fairyhouse behind Blood Destiny. And if they do get a large quantities of rain, and it is soft ground genuinely on the day, his chances will very much be negated. So as I'm standing here right at this very moment, looking for what's the value, Zenta is the most likely winner, but she's no value. Nusret very much is the value. Around about was it 92, 5-1 mark, something
92,
around there?
yeah.
92, yeah. I mean, that would be a really good each way bet if the ground didn't deteriorate, but I fear as though that it probably will do come race day on 2:20 on Thursday.
So at this stage, would you be keeping your powder dry before?
It's a powder dry, yeah. My advice would be to back Nusret if it stays no worse than good to soft, but if it went soft or even softer, soft heavy in places or something like that, I don't think I'll get to those extremes. But if it was genuinely soft, then I would keep my powder dry in that race. I've got nothing else beyond those two.
Nusret 9-2 as it stands, with Unibet Zenta 13-8. On then to the 2:55, the Aintree Bowl, where Shishkin is the 9-4 favourite with Unibet ahead of Bravemansgame at 5-2. Applutard 4-1, Ahoy Senor 5-1, Conflated 5-1, Garlaw 50-1. And as is often the case here, Andy, we've got horses that come here off a pretty tough slog in the Gold Cup at Cheltenham, and then a favourite though this time around in Shishkin, who was an unlucky loser, and unlucky in defeat in the Ryanair, meeting traffic in running, How do you see? I mean, I've seen some fairly surprised that Shishkin's at the top end of this market off the back of that. Where do you stand?
I think this is one of the best races of the entire 3-day festival, George. Let's start by saying that. 5 top quality horses, and that's nothing against Garlaw, because I don't think he's quite in this bracket just as yet. I think he's rated 153, suggests that. But all the other horses, in the high 160 stroke, early 170s. And that is the classic conundrum that you already pointed out in your summary, George. We know what the best form is, which is the Gold Cup. The time figure that Galopin Des Champs produced was one of the best that we've got in the last decade. So it was very much a stellar Gold Cup this year. But the likes of Bravemansgame and Conflated went hard all the way to the line, toe-to-toe with Willie Mullins' Star Chaser. And that is the problem. Whether they'll be affected by coming here off such a hard race in such a relatively short period of time, only time will tell. I can't tell. I don't think even the trainer will know. The horse will still do the same thing at home. He'll go up the gallops and he'll be fresh and well. And all the reports will be say, oh, yeah, he's come out the race, great. He's eating up, he's fit, he's well, he's raring to go again. But that means absolutely nothing. I don't think you should get sucked into those kind of comments either, because we only really will find out when they're pushed through the limit again. I think it's a mental thing as well with a lot of these horses rather than the physical thing. The physical thing is an issue to a degree, but I do think mentally going again and having such a bruising race off the back of a punishing encounter is not to be underestimated. So my gut instinct is to probably field against Bravemansgame and Conflated, even though my gut instinct is telling me that they've got the best chance based on the numbers. And I'd certainly wouldn't rule in anyone out if they fancied Shishkin. To overcome that mistake, as you pointed out at the third last in the Ryanair, and then stay on in the fashion that he did, he's absolutely crying out for 3 miles. I think the King George has already been mooted for him next season. That looks like the logical target. And we know that he comes alive at this time of year, and he's got no problem with the Aintree track either. So I think he is the right favourite based on the potential of what could come over 3 miles. But I do think the most interesting runner here, and he's kind of almost been forgotten here, is Ahoy, Senor. I still thought he was going really well at the head of affairs when he tipped up at the final ditch. That's a problem with him. He just makes the odd ignorant mistake, doesn't he, here, there and everywhere, which often costs him. But if he can jump a clear round, he's definitely got the ability to beat this lot. And the fact that I think he's going to get an uncontested lead from the front in a smaller field when he's not getting harried. Don't forget Hoyk was eyeballing him from a long way out in the Gold Cup. I think that'll definitely help his chance. And if Brian Hughes can get him in to a good rhythm at the front, that might well be the making of him. So at the prices, I think we're dealing with around about 5 to 1, aren't we, for Ahoy, Senor?
5 to 1, yeah.
I think that's a fair price, because he'll certainly, like I say, serve it up to them for at least 2.5 miles. And if he does get into a good rhythm and the others are starting to feel it a bit, we know that he stays on particularly well. And he's the only course and distance winner in the field as well. That's not to be forgotten when he beat Bravemansgame here last year. So it could well be a terrific start for the meeting for Lucinda Russell, who's obviously got the Grand National favourite on the Saturday, and Ahoy Senor could kickstart proceedings for them.
Is Derek Fox not riding because he's injured?
I don't think so, and I don't know what the reason is behind it. I quickly changed track there because I presume Derek Fox was riding, and I just quickly looked up and saw Brian Hughes. So whether connections have jocked off Derek Fox, I don't know. I don't know what the arrangement is there, Brian Hughes is riding.
I saw some suggestion that he was an injury out because he rides Croc Rambler as well. I mean,
could well be
desperately upsetting for him if he can't ride either of those two. I'm sure he'll want to put right what happened on Ahoy Senor, and also want to follow up the win on Croc Rambler with a Gold Cup with a Grand National tilt.
Yeah, whether he's just saving himself for Saturday, I don't know, and he's not putting himself through any other possible misgivings in the build-up. I don't know, but I mean, he's not a bad substitute.
No, no, absolutely not. 5 to 1 at Ahoy Senor, looking to put that fall behind him here in the Aintree Bowl. On then to the 3:30, and is this going to be a procession for Constitution Hill, as all of his races really have been so far in his hurdling career? 1 to 6, Constitution Hill is already beaten Epatante a couple of times. His stablemate, she is 9 to 1. Zana here 12 to 1. Sharjah 18 to 1. I like to move at 25 to 1. So Royale, 50 to 1. I mean, we're not going to get involved here at 6 on, but can you pick anything in the price?
Well, I'm certainly going to try and come up with an alternative anyway in the without the favourite market. That's my job, isn't it, to try and make head or tail of a race when there isn't any value to be had in the favourite and the one that is obviously going to win, and that's Constitution Hill. We all know that. Actually, flippantly said, didn't we, in a preview straight after the Grand National, that some firms had Constitution in at 1 to 4. We thought that was value, and come Thursday, I think it'd probably be 1 to 7, 1 to 8. So for the money buyers, you're kind of halving your stake, aren't you, to win the same amount. Look, he'll win in a canter without breaking sweat. I think Sharjah's the value without the favourite. As we speak, I don't think Unibet have priced this market yet.
I was going to say market price. We've got Epatante 13 to 8, Zanahiyr 9 to 4, Sharjah 7 to 2. I like to move at 11 to 2, So Royal 10 to 1. But do check out unibet.co.uk because I'm sure they'll have a market up fairly soon.
Well, let's say they go at least 3 to 1 Sharjah, maybe slightly bigger. I do think Willie Mullins' 10-year-old is the one to be with here on a process elimination, really. Let's say it is soft ground come Thursday. Trying to get my crystal ball out here, George. I like to move it. We'll have serious question marks about him on soft ground, as he proved in the Champion Hurdle. Sky Royale, admirable though he is, he'll also have a problem with soft ground, especially over 2.5. Zanahiyr, he'll probably be ridden to pick up the pieces like he was in the Champion Hurdle, but not sure whether he's as good a horse as Sharjah. And Epatante was a huge flop, wasn't she, in the mares race? I don't really know why she ran so badly. So there's a little bit of a cloud hanging over her, even though she's the title holder in this race and she likes the track, as we know. But Sharjah, look, he seems to be a horse that always runs his race come rain or shine. A cracking run off top rate weight in the County Hurdle, which shouldn't be underestimated, even though it was a handicap. He ties in with all the best Irish form with State Man and, of course, previous Champion Hurdles with Honeysuckle. And given that Patrick Mullins, who often rides him, likes to ride him fairly quiet and patiently, he's the archetypal horse that will come through and pick up pieces late on when the favourite's gone clear. I see him as being the value bet in the race without the favourite, as I said, if you can get bigger than 3 to 1.
Yeah, keep an eye out, as I say, on Unibet. Sharjah, bit of 7 to 2 around now, but we'll see what price Unibet do come out with. Hopefully the traders don't listen to Andy's reasoning there before they price it up. But keep an eye and you'll find the price up there, I'm sure, fairly soon. On now to the 405, the Hunter Chase here, where Winged Leader is the 130 favourite. Famous Clermont and Late Night Pass, both 11 to 2. Fier Jagan is 7 to 1. It's on the line 11 to 1. Magic Saint 11 to 1. Benny's King 14 to 1 bar those. And, those eagle-eyed amongst you will remember Winged Leader was the horse that was collared very late on in the Hunter Chase at Cheltenham last year. Andy, can you make? I know that Hunter Chases aren't necessarily everyone's cup of tea. Can you make any play for some value here?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd say one of my strongest bets on day one comes in this race. I've got a huge amount of respect for Winged Leader, and anything that David Christie, of course, runs, he's got an embarrassment of riches. Ferns Cross. Vaucelay ran a brave race, of course, at the Cheltenham Festival, and of course, Winged Leader, who comes here fresh, having avoided taking on Billaway et al. In the Cheltenham version, of course. And I think that's always a wise move. You often find that the winner of this race doesn't run in the 3 mile 2 race because it's such a bruising, grueling encounter. To come here only 20 odd days afterwards often takes its toll. So I'd be against the second favourite, Famous Clermont, based on that. And also there's another one that took part in this race as well. It's on the line, who finished second, of course, to the one of the outsiders. I'd be against him. Winged Leader, got nothing wrong to say about or bad to say about Winged Leader. I think this trip will suit him. I think the flat track will suit him. He does stay 3 miles, but I think 2-6, given his run style, he likes to race prominently. Will be absolutely up his street. But I think it's sort of 3 to 1. That kind of price, I'd probably look elsewhere. And I'm a big fan of Late Night Pass, a horse that I tipped in this race last year. I loved his profile coming into Aintree 12 months ago. He'd run well in the race previously when he was second to Cousin Pascal, if you remember. And I thought Connections had timed his preparation absolutely ideal. They gave him two or three runs in a point-to-point. He won all three. He won 2 of his 3, and he duly obliged. He's had a similar profile this season. He's won 2 of his last 3 starts. Comes here fresh and well. Again, looks as though he's got his timing absolutely perfect. I'd say ground for him, ideally good to soft. He's won on soft ground, so he wouldn't mind soft. But I'd say let's say soft, good to soft in places will be perfect, because I think the national course will probably ride a good deal better than maybe the Marmite track, because they don't race on it all that often. But the fact that he's gone round these fences twice, he's hardly ever put a foot wrong in his career. He hardly ever falls. Yeah, I mean, anything each way about Late Night Pass, I'm sure you'll get a great spin out of that.
Late Night Pass 11-2 best price as it stands now there at Unibet, one of Andy's strongest bets of the week there in the 405. 2 more races to cover in this Thursday preview, and we've got the Red Rum Handicap Chase next up, where Third Time Lucky is the 4-1 favourite ahead of Douglas Talking at 9-2. Global Citizen is 6-1. Dancing on My Own 8-1. Pay the Piper and Grey Diamond both 17-2. 10-1 bar those. Andy.
Yeah, again, another race where I've got a fairly strong opinion on. If the rain comes and it does get into the ground by the time they run this race, then I think it'll count against Third Time Lucky. I put him up in the Grand Annual. I thought he ran a blinder, Dan Skelton's horse, but he just didn't get home on the ground. He travelled like the best horse. He was given a beautiful ride by Harry Skelton, and he just didn't see it out up the hill on the ground. I think it'll be the same again here if it is soft. And the one thing I think which is going to be assured here, they're going to go a really strong gallop. And the horse that's going to be responsible for the strong gallop, and the one I think will stay there in front, is Douglas Talking. Now, Lucinda Russell has been nothing short of a sensation in the last 2 or 3 years with her chasers. One for Arthur, your Ahoy Senors, your Corrick Ramblers. A trainer very much punching up against her weight when the northern scene has been really disappointing over the last decade or so. Even Donna McCain and Nicky Richards can't get a look in at the Cheltenham Festival, but Lucinda Russell's very much different to that. And she's got this Douglas Talking really humming and singing at the moment. Had a wind operation after a couple of disappointing runs early on in the campaign, but he's looked a totally different horse since. He absolutely dotted up when he won at Ayr 2 runs ago, and I didn't really pay that much attention to that win. It looks like a mandatory victory against northern horses, but then he came down south the other day and went to Sandown, and he completely and utterly toyed with a good horse of Venetia Williams' called Gamma Ray. I love the way he jumped and travelled that day, and he simply bounded clear in the latter stages. He made soft ground at Sandown look like good ground. He was that good. His time figure was really good, and he looked as though he got loads in hand when he hit the line. He's obviously been bumped up in the handicap subsequently, but I do think he's still well treated off 1-3-4. Obviously, Derek Fox doesn't ride. So, Stephen McQueen rides here. They could have used Patrick Wadge as well. They could have actually claimed off of him and given him an extra chance. But they've decided to go with Stephen, who's ridden him before. And I think he'll just jump off and run him into the ground. He's a real big, strong bull of a horse, powerful galloper. This track should suit him ideally. And he's the kind of horse that once he gets into the rhythm, like he showed at Sandown, which is very much a rhythm track, he's going to be very, very difficult to shake off from the front. So this sharp 2 miles is tailor-made for Douglas Talking.
Douglas Talking 9-2 best price at the moment with Unibet. They're currently a 5th of 4, but keep your eyes out on the Unibet site to see what place terms and prices will come available. Finally, it is the bumper, the 5:15. No prices here as of yet. Normally these prices come out the evening before the race, but I'm excited, Andy, to hear your take, because a couple of really certainly looking by the eye tests, exciting candidates here. We've got See You in My Dreams for Paul Nicholls. We've got Jolie Coeur Alain for Willie Mullins, and Not Keeping You Going, who is an impressive winner as well for John McConnell at Galway. Who comes out best out of all this lot in the speed ratings?
Well, See You in My Dreams clocked a good number when she won at Newbury. She created a really favourable impression that day. I think everyone could see that she's a potentially star mare in the next season or two when she goes over hurdles, and she should be out of trouble at the front as well, because both of her 2 victories in point-to-point field, and of course at Newbury, have been when she's made all the running. Really exciting type. But this Julie Coeur Alain is the one that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I went and watched the video back the other day of her race, her only race so far to date over in her native land, and I could see why JP McManus has bought this horse. I'm not sure the standard of the form. I wouldn't have any clue if I'm being absolutely honest, but just visually, the way she went through the race and the way she hit the line suggests that she's going to be a potentially very, very smart horse. I think she probably would have won with a clear run as well. That was my overriding impression. She got boxed in, and then once she saw a little bit of daylight, she flew, but the one that won it ended up just getting first run. But there's just loads of potential there. She obviously hasn't run for 213 days, so that has to be factored in. But I think it's very significant that they're not even giving her a run. They're just basically just throwing her into the lion's den and saying, go on, let's see what you can do, without even running in Ireland or of any kind of experience. So they must believe that she's the right type for this race. Willie Mullins has won this race last year with Ashrow Diamond. So, like I say, he knows what it takes. She's obviously been doing that kind of work, which suggests she's up to graded standard. So given that Willie Mullins literally is winning with everything in his stable at the moment, I think he had about 7 or 8 winners over the last 2 or 3 days, maybe even more than that, I lost count. Then Joli Coeur Hélène would be the one for me.
Do you know what Joli Coeur means in French, Andy?
Oh, God, I should do, but I don't.
The literal translation is pretty heart, but I think the actual translation is sweetheart. So okay. Sweetheart Allen is the one we're looking at here for Willie Mullins. And as you say, surely got to mean something that this French recruit has been pitched in at the deep end here in the Aintree bumper. Interested to see what price Unibet come out with when prices do come out in the next 24 hours or so.
I'd guess second favourite. I'd be as amazed if CU in my dreams isn't favourite. But I'd pretty much be confident a Willie Mullins trained, highly regarded mare or filly that could be anything won't be put in any bigger than sort of second favourite.
Out of interest, what price is not keep? Sorry, how did not keeping you going stack up in your? Because I saw Presenting Jay, who he beat with the one bumper start, won next time out. And it was a massive gamble on the show as well. I think it was about 25-1 into 13-2. The winner. Yeah,
exactly. That was a good winner next time out for the Kennedys. I mean, I love the way she won at Galway. She, bossed it from the front, always travelled well. Difficult to make all the running at Galway, but she powered clear up the hill, won by double digits, wasn't it, in the end?
Yeah, 13 lengths.
And the fact that John McConnell hasn't run her, I would have thought he might have maybe saved her for Cheltenham or something like that. There's a good mares meeting, isn't there, next week with a mares listed bumper. He could have gone there, and John McConnell certainly knows where to place his horses and how highly you should be punching with these kind of animals. So yeah, I mean he's got a great winter run ratio when he brings horses over, John McConnell, as he proved at the Cheltenham Festival. He was lucky not to have 2 winners, wasn't he? Because Marlon Mission fell at the second last in the National Chase when he had the race at his mercy. So it's a yard very much not to want to be underestimated.
There we go. Thanks, Andy, as ever, for sharing his thoughts and tips and insight with us ahead of the day 1 of the Grand National Festival at Aintree. Thank you very much to Unibet for sponsoring the show as well. They'll also be sponsoring Friday and Saturday's preview, which we'll be recording later on in the week. So do subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel where you can find that there when it's out. And remember that Unibet are offering more extra place races at Aintree this season than ever before. Every handicap race will have extra places and others too. So do check that out. And they'll also be offering money back for second or third on at least one race every day. Check out unibet.co.uk to find out more details. Hopefully a couple of winners in there. Thanks to Andy. Thank you to you for watching or listening to this. So keep your eyes peeled for those previews coming up in the next couple of days. Enjoy day 1 at Aintree, and please ensure that you're gambling responsibly.